Hello, I'm Adinser and this is my Mistweaver gameplay guide for challenge mode dungeons. Now, trying to do challenge modes with my monk after doing so with my druid is such a contrast. Mistweavers are the worst healers for challenge modes by far, for one simple reason. We don't have a strong AoE or even cleave healing ability that we can use often. Uplift and orbs simply don't cut it. So the majority of our healing must and will come from enveloping mist. When there isn't enough time to gain a lot of chi to constantly put out enveloping mist, and that happens literally every single pull, we have to struggle to heal with the rest of our subpar spells. With that said, let's take a look at how to play a Mistweaver in challenge modes. First of all, as I mentioned before, renewing mist and uplift aren't a priority anymore. Instead, we have to make full use of our talent tree in order to effectively heal a group of 5. Starting off with the level 30 tier, Chi Burst is still the best and most needed heal out of the 3, but depending on if you are able to cast it in a particular dungeon or group composition, Zen Sphere might be better for you. So if you have a mixed composition of ranged and melee, which you normally do, Chi Burst isn't helping much, especially since people don't have a tendency to even remotely stack in these sort of dungeons. It really depends on a lot of things, and you will have to switch these two talents out a lot. In the next tier, use whatever you use in raids, but I would highly recommend Chi Brew as always. Leg Sweep is the best ability in our CC tier, but might be obsolete if your party already has 3 stuns, so that you can't stun again for the 4th time because of DR. Then use Ring of Peace, but that is highly unlikely to happen. At level 75, the best defensive, same as in raids, is Diffuse Magic. However, you don't tend to need it for soaking as in raids, just for personal survivability. And that's why healing elixirs come ahead in most situations. Plus, Diffuse Magic has a long cooldown. The elixirs do extra healing on yourself, so that you don't need to waste that much time healing yourself as you would otherwise. Bear in mind that the talent choices we have to make have to benefit our healing the most, because we simply need more healing. With that said, the spell that does the most healing at level 100 is Breath of the Serpent. Pool of Mists just isn't viable since we aren't focusing on renewing mist anymore, so we don't need the 3 charges, and Chi Explosion just gives an AoE effect to the 3 Chi you would otherwise spend on enveloping mist. It is, however, good to take when you are mostly DPSing and not healing, but that can never truly happen in challenge modes, maybe in Mythic. So we have to take Breath of the Serpent. In terms of glyphs, you should keep the Glyph of Soothing Mist and switch out the other 2 for Touch of Death, which is incredibly helpful, and for the third one you can choose between 3 that are very rarely useful. Either go with Glyph of Detox, Glyph of Freedom Roll, or Fortuitous Spheres. It really doesn't matter which one out of those 3 you choose. There is one more big question left unanswered. When to go into the Spirited Crane stance and DPS. Obviously, anytime you have time to do so, and while the party isn't taking too much damage. Also, when you want to Touch of Death on something, always switch to the stance for the ridiculous healing it does. The main concern with it is to predict the damage that will affect the party and switch stances accordingly. One more time to switch is when you need the extra DPS on some adds or a boss, and that might happen a few times. Then you will need to pop some cooldowns like Cocoon and Revival while you are DPSing, because you can't effectively heal. Oh, and make sure to use CC abilities as much as possible to minimize the damage. Mainly Leg Sweep, Interrupt and Incapacitate. Other than that, the best tip I can give you is don't even think about bugging with this spec for gold or even silver, you really need an awesome group to manage to pull off 8 out of 8 gold CMs. Otherwise, you can always go Windwalker. So this was the last challenge mode for a healer spec. The Shaman one will be in conjunction with the general Shaman gameplay guide, and after that I will do a longer video explaining how best to heal every single challenge mode as sort of a general healing guide for all CMs. Thanks for watching and see ya then.